So before we get started, I don't know if y'all know this about me, but I have a penchant for doing very stupid things. And you might have known that throughout this playthrough, we've had a lot of quality memes pop up. And you know, thanks to Sayara, thanks to June, we've had just many people sending us really, really cool things. And I thought, you know, and I put together that Shion Nightmare graphic of Shion with Bubsy's head. And I thought, you know what? We had a moment last arc where, you remember when Rika got the gang together and she finally decided to start telling everybody what was going on in Hinamizawa? At the end of that scene, you're just like John said something to the effect of, okay, now imagine Rika being the one telling everybody this. And it's just like, and I just remember following up with, yeah, she basically just had her own Metal Gear Solid cutscene. So, if you could indulge me for just one moment, I would like to share a very big stupid with you all.
The name Hinamizawa Syndrome has actually been around since before the war. It's the general term for the severe homesickness and mental instability that people from Hinamizawa experience when outside the village.
Outside the village?
People in Hinamizawa have refused to leave the village since the era of Onigafuchi. The villagers believed that they'd be cursed by Oyashiro-sama if they left, and people who did often came back because of that curse.
Because of the curse?
In general, it used to be thought of as only severe homesickness. But during the war, soldiers from Hinamizawa became mentally deranged in faraway places.
Mentally deranged?
What was unique about the soldiers from Hinamizawa was the way that they killed their own comrades and committed suicide at the end.
They committed suicide?
One doctor became curious about these cases and studied those soldiers. That's when they found out that it was actually a disease only found in Hinamizawa.
Only in Hinamizawa?
According to this doctor, their strange behavior was not the result of their culture. It was a mental disease triggered by external circumstances.
A mental disease?
A mental disease with an external cause is different from a psychological illness. It's the result of some kind of physical disorder, and it causes people to become mentally unstable when something triggers it.
So, there you go. That was my own little brand of stupidity that I put together yesterday. Thanks to that scene in the last arc where Rika was explaining everything that was going on in Hinamizawa. So I hope everybody enjoyed my bit of stupidity there. I had a good deal of fun putting it together, and like Rhett and John were instrumental and kind of, they didn't really tell me to do it, but the more that it sat there in my brain and I thought about it, the more I had to do it. So like them being like, you know what, somebody should really do that. And I was like, you know what, I'm stupid, let's do it. Alright, so hopefully we won't have to crack open the history books this time for this episode. I think we're at least past that. So let's see how things are going. Let's see how things are going for our girl Takano. It's probably going fine.
ご紹介します。高野三佐です。三佐、こちらは入江京介先生です。
Oh, hey, I know that guy. You can take partial credit, John. It's fine.
入江と申します。
Irie seemed extremely nervous at our first meeting. He probably thought I was in charge of some suspicious organization. What, Takano in charge of some suspicious organization? Thank you for the 5 bits, Ding. I appreciate it. Thank you.
萎縮しなくて結構ですわ。高野とお呼びください。恐縮です。この度は。
Also, what is this sound in the background supposed to be? It sounds like they got a jet in the room. Is it supposed to be like an air conditioning or rain? What is going on here? Yeah, it sounds like a waterfall.
どうぞおかけになってください。
Oishi's air conditioning. A model, lower middle-class citizen was a good way to describe Kyosuke Irie's demeanor. One could also say he was the stereotypical type of person to get conveniently discarded after those crafty elders used their seniority to constantly pick on him. He certainly doesn't seem as cunning as I am, but that doesn't mean he isn't ambitious. Like me, he's a young person who dreams of accomplishing something great and leaving his name upon the generations to come. While he acts humble in person like this, his articles were actually progressive as well as aggressive. The gap between the two was quite intense.
南沢症候群の資料を読ませていただきました。
いかがでしたか？
その非常に驚くことばかりでした。確かに今日の医学の暗部に踏み込みかねない内容ではありますが、未だ世界で誰も解明していない神秘という点で知的興奮を抑えきれません。
Hearing that made me chuckle. Irie is more than interested in Hinamizawa syndrome, which is good enough for me. She had been through the ringer far too many people to reach this day, so her honed intuition could tell she would get along with this man. Even if he wasn't useful to me, he won't cause any problems. For both me and my sponsor, he's the best person possible for the job. That was a very weird third first-person shift there. I was not a fan of that.
入江先生ほどの博識かつ経験豊富な方が責任ある地位も仕事も与えられず医局の片隅で飼い下ろされているのです。
What is this sound? It's driving me crazy.
医学界の重要
Why is it in an
な
office
ざるを得ま
room?
せん。
Irie laughed. Oh, thank God it stopped. He probably thought I didn't know, but I had received detailed documents on him, so I knew why he was exiled from the limelight despite his rare talent and achievements. Oh, damn. What? He displayed extraordinary skill working under a neurosurgery expert, and everyone expected a bright future from him, but he was kicked out due to an ethical controversy. Uh-oh. Irie's pet theory was that the antisocial behavior of individuals could be explained by brain disorders. He believed that no one in the world was born a villain, and that they were all just poor patients in need of treatment. He proposed that they were all proper and normal when born, yet as they matured, psychogenesis and various various exogenous factors caused brain disorders that made them into villains. Therefore, what those evil people need isn't punishment, it is treatment, and if their diseases are treated, they will become good citizens again. That manner of thinking actually fell in line with the Confucian belief of innate human goodness. According to this theory, humans are born with the capacity for altruism toward their kind, and it is only afterward that they learn and acquire cruelty. Irie believed that acquisition was the result of brain disorders. The human brain creates human thoughts. Therefore, if one becomes emotionally ill, that means the brain is ill. So if their brain gets treatment, they will recover emotionally too. Psychogenesis. That field was called psychosurgery. Psychosurgery. It had fallen out of practice in the current Heisei area, but the surgical techniques were applauded until mid-Showa, especially since it produced spectacular results on a chronic mental patient who was said to be incurable. The man who invented it even won a Nobel Prize. That was how revolutionary it was. Humans think that's why they become ill. Everyone knows that's why those who overthink matters are prone to mental illness. When the organ that thinks and debates grows ill, humans deviate from normal social behavior. That part is called the frontal lobe. Put simply, psychosurgery is a surgery performed to operate on the frontal lobe. This kind of surgery doesn't require removing the whole that thing. A small hole is drilled through the cranium, and a special scalpel is inserted down to cut it. It's not a major surgery, it's just a technique for quickly operating on the precious frontal lobe. Indeed, it was revolutionary in its simplicity. Yep, that's real life. I knew about that. All the severely ill mental patients miraculously recovered, so the technique spread around the world quickly. Those with obstinate and chronic mental illness. The severely ill trapped in deep, inescapable depression. All of those could be saved by this technique. Throughout history, humans have come up with many different religions or magic tricks to heal emotional injuries, so needless to say, the idea of being able to treat them with a surgical technique was truly revolutionary. Irie admired psychosurgery and pushed forward in the field of surgical techniques to treat human souls. However, from the modern human rights standpoint, severing a portion of the brain simply because someone is emotionally disturbed is absolutely out of the question. People gradually started to think differently and said that psychosurgery was inhumane. The frontal lobe controls how people think, but it is also the part that makes humans act human. There were quite a few cases where that cut caused drastic, irreversible changes in the patient. A baseless happiness born from a lack of thought, a change in personality, a loss of interest in everything, major mood swings due to a lack of control over one's emotions. Some even lost part of their memories. Of course, some didn't even survive the surgery. By the mid-1960s, use of psychosurgery declined. Also, due to the development of psychotropic medicine, the surgery was hardly performed anymore anyway. Yet some people still believed in the idea and continued to perform the surgery and gather clinical data. They wanted people to recognize the value of the technique once again. Some of these surgeries were performed without consent. One theory is that in Japan alone, there were thousands of people who woke up from general anesthesia only to find part of their brain had been removed. You ever just wake up from general anesthesia and be like, "Oi, Guff, I think part of my brain's gone. Feel like a little bit of nugget just fell out. Feeling a little nugget lighter." I mean, that's how I imagine it goes anyway. Today, to perform such a surgery without a patient's consent is considered totally unethical, but it was different at the time. For one thing, the idea that doctors required prior patient consent was proliferated in the modern Heisei area. Therefore, people at the time didn't think that it was that big of an issue. It was only later that people started to argue that it was inhumane. Finally, a decision was reached and a curtain raised with the rejection of psychosurgery. Later, the Japanese Society of Psychology and Neurology passed their resolution to end psychosurgery. After that, psychosurgery was banned throughout Japan and made a forbidden subject of Japanese medicine. Irie was the leading person in the field of psychosurgery. He continued to advocate its effectiveness and results. Therefore, he was treated as a war criminal who practiced inhumane medicine, and he was exiled from the public eye. However, that doesn't mean he changed his beliefs. He still believes that immoral behavior is caused by brain disorders, and the secret of treating them is in fact hidden in the brain. So the existence of Higurashi syndrome, caused by parasites living in the brain that control human emotions, actually affirms his theory. Yeah, this feels a little more... this is actually a lot more interesting than the one part. Like, look, the last time I'm gonna bitch about this. That 20-minute segment, the only part we needed was at the bridge incident, the person that fired the shot had Higurashi syndrome. That's all we needed. We didn't need the 250,000 minutes of history lesson before that. That's all I'm saying. Of course, given Irie's history, he would never turn down this offer. Despite his mild-mannered appearance, Irie was possessed by a mighty ambition. There was no way he didn't desire a chance to complete research that would prove himself to the medical society that ostracized him. I'm handing him that chance on a silver platter. Histoire will remember that. Not if I take out part of her brain. If I just take out a little nugget of her brain, she will not remember that, I guarantee it. Yep, the US took way longer. Yep.
しかし、私などが所長でいいのでしょうか。それは高野さんがやられた方がよろしいでしょう。
Every time Irie is looking at somebody now, I want you to think of him looking at them, and all he sees is just a big old juicy brain. That's all he sees. He's salivating, he's rubbing his hands together, he's licking his chops. He cannot get enough. You were just a big old sexy juicy brain to this boy.
私は単なる医者にすぎません。人の上に立ったことなど。
ご安心ください。それにつきましては、私も全面的にサポートいたします。トップは制服ではなく背広からというのは 上の希望でもあります。お気に召しませんか、入江所長という呼び名は。
Yeah, I think Jetstorm's got the right idea here. I don't want him looking at her either way.
いや、しかし
Irie laughed to hide his
現在
embarrassment.
ひなみ沢に研究施設を建設中です。表向きは診療所ということになっています。入江先生にご快諾をいただきましたので、入江診療所という名前にいたしましょう。
一国一城の主とはもったいない話です。
John, save the horny fan fiction for after stream, okay?
あと身分を陸自で預かることになりますので、先生の席は陸自の医官という扱いになります。私の上司ですので2佐の階級になりますので、入江2佐という呼び名はいかがでしょう。
私は軍人じゃありません。2佐という呼び名は遠慮させていただきたいものです。所長だって恐れ多いくらいです。いやいや、
The man of many titles, Lieutenant Colonel, Director, Manager. He's getting a chance to research brain parasites, plus being given the title of Director of a new clinic as a camouflage. Plus, it comes with staff and funding. He'll even have support from the Defense Agency and the Ministry of Health and Welfare, as well as a research lab with state-of-the-art equipment. No wonder he's laughing so excitedly. However, there are some risks too. Since he'll be involved with this secret research, he has an obligation to keep it a secret. Also, he's going to an area plagued by a mysterious and bizarre disease. There's no guarantee he won't contract it himself. But Irie is too young to even think about those things. Aware of all the risks, he quickly signed the contract with the ambition to have people recognize his talent once again. It's interesting kind of having this look at him, because you wouldn't get that from him at all. So kind of like peeling back the layers on this character now, and like what he's been up to and why he's doing what he's doing. It's going to be interesting, I think. When I saw him sign the contract, I finally relaxed. I knew he would agree to join us, but at the same time, I was afraid of the chance that he'd refuse. Selecting a director proved more difficult than expected, and the only candidate Takano paired well with was Irie. So if Irie refused to take the position, then frankly, she'd be placed in an even worse situation. Now that Irie has agreed to take the position, research on Hinamizawa syndrome can finally begin. The research center, or rather the clinic, will be completed next spring. The Ministry of Health and Welfare and the Defense Agency will send the best equipment and staff, plus an abundant supply of funds. Then, finally, our research will begin in earnest. Everything is going well. Of course it is. I've put so much effort into making sure things went smoothly up to this point.
以上です。
Yeah, like yesterday, my issue wasn't learning about grown-ups. Like, I don't want that to be the point, because I don't think that just the main characters are the only important part of this story. I know that these adults are a very important part of this story, and we need this information. It's just yesterday, the way that was presented was butt-fuckingly bad.
就任おめでとうございます、入江社長殿。サンさん、宣誓書へのサインを終わりました。
ありがとう。これからよろしくお願いいたしますわ、入江所長。
こちらこそよろしくお願いします、高見さん。仲良くやりましょう。私も全身全霊をかけて頑張ります。
こちらこそお互い最善を尽くしましょう。
Now the position of director has been filled. Everything is set.
それはよかったよかった。おめでとう、高野さん。
Oh, it's been a while since Lanx paid us a visit.
え、高野三佐でしたかな？
これもすべて先生方のお力添えがあったからこそです。高野美代、皆様に心より感謝させていただきます。
まあまあ、高 高野さんに本当の意味でおめでとうが言えるのは研究が成功に終わった時ですな。ようやく入り口にたどり着いたに過ぎませんよ。
おっしゃる通りです。寝る間を惜しんで研究に身を投じていく覚悟です。
高野先生が成し遂げられなかったさらにその先へ至られることを私ども一度楽し
まあまあ先生、今日はそういう堅苦しい話は抜きにしましょう。今日は高野さんのこれからと入江機関の設立を祝って乾杯と参りましょう。
乾杯の前にご挨拶、厚生省の永田と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
ああ、高野さん、彼をバシバシこき使ってやってください。彼のところの研究所は入江機関のバックアップをしてくれます。技術的に困ったことがあったらいつでも頼ってやってください。
こき使うだなんてそんな。こちらこそお世話になります。高野と申します。どうかよろしくお願いします。
高野さん、こちらも紹介しましょう。陸自から出向の富武君と小此木君です。
Hey! More friends! More friends!
陸自側からのバックアップをします。ぜひご挨拶させてください。
Okay, so that's our confirmation that Tomitake is SDF.
はじめまして、富武と申します。この度のプロジェクトの監査役を仰せつかりました。どうかよろしくお願いいたします。
The founding for our research is largely coming from the SDF. It's only natural for the SDF to assign a watchdog to make sure reasonable research is taking place. However, someone in a position like that should be my opponent. Why was someone in that position invited to this private party? Does that mean this auditor is on my side too? Seeing that thorough groundwork, I couldn't help but feel the strength of having a sponsor all over again.
私は直接はひなみ沢に赴きませんが、定期的にお伺いして研究の進捗管理などをさせていただくことになります。
It's anime John Thayer. That's what Tomitake is right now. This is like what when you dress Tomitake up, he's basically anime John Thayer.
あら、それは残念ですわね。ひなみ沢は空気も良くて自然も素晴らしいところですのよ。ぜひ仕事以外でも気軽に遊びにいらしてくださいね。
ありがとうございます。そうさせていただきます。
If he really is an auditor, I should maintain a good relationship with this man. He'll hold the key to all future adjustments of our funding so long as we continue drawing it from the SDF.
小此木と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。
彼は不正規船部隊の一つ山犬の隊長です。ひなみ沢に常駐し、三佐を直接サポートします。
ボディーガードみたいなものと思っていいのかしら。
要人護衛、秘密保持が主な任務です。三佐の直接の手足となりますので、どうかこき使ってやってください。
よろしくお願いします。
Tomitake seems to be an honest type for a military man, but this Okinogi person looks like the complete opposite. His main job is to preserve secrets, but I bet he's also good with espionage tactics like counterintelligence and information control. Yes, this would explain his demeanor. Since the SDF is funding our research on Hinamizawa syndrome, of course this is considered a military operation. Therefore, this research has to be done in secret. That's why a unit like this is necessary. Besides, it's very reassuring to have someone capable of combat working under me. I should maintain a good relationship with him, too.
さあ、挨拶はこれくらいにして早く乾杯に移りましょう。さあ、富武君も足を崩して。
The VN art makes who look like a villain? Tomitake? I mean, wow. Like I said, Okinogi's got a strong fucking look in the manga gamer version. This dude's got a fucking look. There we go.
Today, 今日は入江機関の前途を祝して無礼講で参りましょう。
Well, this is supposed to celebrate the establishment of the EDA Institute. EDA himself isn't here, but that is his job after all. EDA is simply a puppet to fill his seat. Of course, I expect him to help me a little with the expertise, but he's ultimately an outsider. This was supposed to be a gathering where I would show my appreciation to those who helped me establish the EDA Institute, but it was turned into them thanking me for all of my efforts. I'm always the one to pour alcohol for others, but today people are pouring alcohol in my glass. The new participants were trying to make me happy, and all the top people talked to me casually. They all praised my hard work and my efforts. My research is now recognized by many institutions, and I am ready to spread my wings open wide. And all the people who are expecting some returns once the research accomplishes something are trying to curry favor with me. But right now, I'm just very grateful, regardless of their motives.
それでは入江機関の設立と高野美代君の今後ますますの発展を祈願して乾杯に移りたいと思います。先生、温度をお願いいたします。
I think Okanogi's okay. It's like a dream. I know, this is just the beginning, and I shouldn't be satisfied with just this alone, but just for today, I can forget about everything else and enjoy this celebration. I'm not a heavy drinker, but the drinks taste good tonight, and the more I drink, the happier I get. Ah, this really is wonderful. To be called Major by Tomitake and the others is wonderful too. That's the rank my grandfather had during the war. That means I've finally caught up with my grandfather. This is only the beginning. From here on, I intend to reach what my grandfather couldn't. This is the best night of my life. That'll change a few years from now. I can think of another night that is the best night of your life. You had it last arc, boy oh boy. When you have the night of your life, the speeches you are going to give, woman. I ended up leaving to fix my makeup. I'm filled with elation. I need to feel fresh air to calm myself down. My heart is about to explode because I'm so happy. The gathering is taking place a little distance away from the main building. The restroom is in the main building, so I need to walk across the hallway. A beautiful and well-maintained Japanese garden is visible from the hallway. It's raining. I usually don't like rain, but I don't mind it at all today. I feel like even the raindrops are congratulating me. The cool air feels pleasant on my hot skin. It took me a moment to notice how unsteady my footsteps had become. Maybe I drank a little too much. It isn't like me to drink more than I can handle. Although this is a party, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I decided to cool off a little by looking at the beautiful Japanese garden. I found an elegant chair sat on the red carpet nearby and sat down on it. Since I was with the associates until now, I was forced to constantly be on guard against embarrassing myself. But now that I was alone, I could let go and truly relax. When I look up at the sky, I realize it's still raining hard, but in the distance, the horizon is a little brighter. Maybe it won't be raining that much longer. Well, that's normal. Rain stops eventually. No matter how cold it is or how hard it's raining, rain stops eventually. I saw a pair of sandals and an umbrella, almost inviting me, so I took them into the garden. The tasteless laughter coming from the party sounds far away. I tilted the umbrella and looked up at the sky. I felt the raindrops hit my face and gazed up at the sky for a while, letting all my hair get wet. I thought the rain would cool down my boiling heart, but as my body got cold, I started to feel miserable. My bare feet were all swollen, and throbbing pain I felt made them seem twice the normal size. The gravel road continued forever. I didn't even know what direction I was headed in anymore. I could no longer hear my pursuer. I had probably lost him by running through the woods like mad. My body was covered in scratches. I finally started to feel the pain from that. I felt both cold and hungry. There was no place nearby to take shelter from the rain. I was just on a little path in the woods. My worst fear was that I could end up heading back towards the orphanage. After bolting and losing my sense of direction, I had crushed that man's finger. I don't think I bit it off, but I was sure it would leave a scar. Taking that into consideration, it was very clear to me what kind of torture awaited me back at the orphanage. Therefore, I'd have to reach the House of Love and Mercy. If it only had been daytime, then I could easily have found the right way to go. However, with this rain, there was nothing I could do, but I couldn't stop. I had to keep walking until I reached something. I wondered if Eriko and the others had escaped safely. I didn't know how many people came after us, but at least one came after me. In other words, it meant they had a better chance. Did they reach the house of love and mercy? Were they drying themselves with soft towels? And if they still remembered me, would they save a towel for me too? I felt so cold. I wanted to find shelter and sit down, but there was nothing of the sort. I saw a tree that looked like I could take shelter under it, but the branches and leaves were dripping with water. It was then that I realized the sky was gradually getting darker. Would this day end in rain? There were no streetlights where I was. Soon enough, it would be totally dark. Then I wouldn't be able to walk any further. I just wanted to sit down, even if it was raining. But if I did sit down, I probably wouldn't be able to stand up again. So I endured it. If I hadn't escaped with Eriko and the others, I wouldn't have had to go through such misery. But compared to what I had to go through at the orphanage, this was nothing. Thinking about that was the only way to make myself move. But when I thought about that, it's true that this freezing cold rain was far better than my life at the orphanage. Uh-oh, we got piano. Oh no. Oh no, piano. You don't get to do this. You can't do this. But that was only when compared to the life at the orphanage. Was it better than the normal lives of normal kids my age? I didn't even need to think about that. When my parents were alive, although we weren't rich, we led a normal life. The gentle smiles and forgivable selfishness. The sound of my mother cooking breakfast in the morning, the sound of a newspaper being folded, precious memories like that. I didn't need anything else. I had plenty of friends. I had fun at school. I didn't like my teacher, but I liked studying. I had everything I needed. That was enough for me. I never complained. I never did anything bad. So why was this happening to me? Everything went downhill after that train accident. The die of fate kept rolling a 1. The die never showed its good side to me. If the accident was my fault, then I could have accepted it. But it wasn't. I wasn't even there. I waited for my parents at home. I liked going to the mall with them. We always had a meal at the restaurant at the mall. I always told them to let me know if they were going to the mall. But on that day, they went without me while I went to my friend's house to play. My friend wasn't in, so I went back home. I didn't see anyone at home and found a note that said they were going to the mall. I regretted going to my friend's house. I waited at home. They didn't come home. They were still gone by dinner time. I was getting hungry and I got angry with my parents for leaving me. I thought they were having dinner at the mall restaurant without me. If I hadn't gone to my friend's house, I would be eating dinner at the restaurant too. I loved the little flags that came with the kids' meals. I was collecting those flags. Yes, I was. I was trying to collect 20 of them, thinking that once I collected 20, something wonderful would happen. But I couldn't collect 20 of them. I only needed one more. If I had one more, maybe that accident wouldn't have happened. A very sad memory of a flag from a kid's meal. I kept waiting for my parents to come home from the mall. I was hungry, so I started to eat some dried fish. If I ate too much, my mother would find out, so I was careful not to gorge myself. Then the phone rang. I assumed it was from my parents. I answered the phone in an angry manner, but it wasn't them at all. What happened to the house? We had rented it, so maybe somebody else was already moved in. What happened to my room? What about my desk and all the flags that were in the right middle drawer? If it wasn't my house anymore, then where was I supposed to go? Even if it remained my house, my parents wouldn't be there to welcome me or protect me. Just because I didn't have my parents to protect me, the whole world became so cruel. How could anyone take me away from the house I was used to living in just because my parents were gone? Why didn't they just leave me alone? They asked me many things. They tried to confirm many things. But how could I have understood any of the forms they gave me? I was asked a yes or no question. I had no choice but to answer yes. And before I knew it, I ended up at the orphanage. It was beyond heartless. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just a little girl. I had to sign so many papers, but why this? The warm and gentle world ended suddenly without advance notice, and I was thrown into the cruel and merciless world alone. Was this the real world? Did I have any allies at all? Just because my parents died and I didn't have any relatives, the world had become so sad. When is the die going to come up with a 6 instead of a 1 to make up for the continuous series of the latter? Tears were pouring down my cheeks. The salty taste further saddened and irritated me. I couldn't do anything but cry, but no matter how hard I cried or pitied myself, the cold rain wouldn't warm my body or save me. I didn't even know where I was or which direction I should go. Eriko showed me a map of the House of Love and Mercy when we were planning our escape, but we only learned the shortest route. I was completely lost, but strangely, after I started crying, I felt a groundless strength within myself. I once learned that tears wash away particles in the eyes, but there is a different purpose to them too. Tears also wash away what's in the heart. I clenched my fist and forced my feet to move. I headed to the direction that I believed to be correct on the gravel road. The rain was still pouring, and it was getting darker and darker. I roared at the sky amidst the rain. My sadness was turning into anger.
神様のバカ！どうして私がこんな目に遭わなくちゃならないの！私が何をしたの？何もしてない。ただ普通に生活してただけ。そんな私がどうしてこんな目に遭わなくちゃならないの！人生はいいことと悪いことと2つあってどちらも長続きしないってお父さんが言ってた。ならこれだって長続きしないんだよね。いつまでも私はこんなひどいところに一人ぼっちじゃないんだよね。ねえ、そうなんでしょ。
As I looked up, I felt the raindrops hit my face. There is no God. I knew that in my heart. But such disbelief wouldn't save me. If I believed he was there, I should have been saved. No, I needed him to be there. Was he going to answer me? Oh, that's a cool fucking effect! Okay, that's how oh, that's neat. Okay, that's cool. That's a separate CG where they did the lightning and then they just did a cool little dissolve transition to make it a lightning strike. That's cool as shit! I heard thunder, then I realized he was there. He was there, and he was listening to me. In his eyes, everyone was supposed to be equal, and he was listening to me.
もう私は十分辛い思いをした。十分すぎるくらいに。これまでがそれに見合うくらいに幸せすぎたなら、この不幸を甘んじて私は受けることもあるかもしれない。でも、そんなことなかった。私は普通の生活をしてきたに過ぎない。 それが幸せじゃなかったのかと言われたら確かにそれは幸せだったのかもしれないけどだからってそれの裏返しがこれではあまりに見合わない
You know, man, you're always gonna get me when it's a child screaming about the world not being fair. You're always gonna fucking get me with that. Like, I don't care. It's just always gonna get me. Okay. I heard thunder again. He was listening. I continued.
私の運命が神様の何かの間違いだというのなら、もう私を解放して。これで私の不幸を終わりにして、私を今日までの不幸に見合う幸福に導いて。でももし、これが私に与えられた運命で、このまま私に生涯を終えろというのなら、こんな人生いらない。私を殺してよ。 その雷で私を打ちつければいい。落雷で殺されてしまうという最後の不運を私に見舞えばいい。
God, the acting too, it's really good.
さあ、試してみなさい。私の人生を無慈悲に奪ったように、その雷で無慈悲に私を打ち据えればいい。
I heard thunder again. It was loud enough to make me shiver. Normally I would just hide in the house and wait until the thunder went away, but on that day I wasn't afraid. Oh, whoa. The heavens replied to my provocation. The heavens took aim at me, a lowly human who dared sling constant, insolent insults at them. That was my wish. I opened my arms. He's God, so he wouldn't miss me. However, I guess even God makes mistakes sometimes. Although he's supposed to be fair, he had been unfair with me.
さあ狙え、殺せ、私を天に連れて行け。だがもし私を殺し損ねたなら、私の運命をひっくり返してみろ。哀れな子。
A flash from heaven. I thought I smelled something burning just before it hit. The sheer force knocked me to the ground. It was a strange experience. It was something that had just happened, but it already felt like it happened many years ago. I had no idea how long I was down for. I smelled something odd. The bad stench woke me up. When I looked, I saw that a huge tree behind me had been split open. Its leaves were smoldering. I looked up and saw sparks in the darkness. I couldn't understand what just happened. I just stood there. The thunderbolt had struck. It didn't strike me. It struck the tree behind me. I didn't get to die. He was telling me to keep walking in the woods in the cold rain. I won my bet with God. I bet my life. I bet my life against the lightning and thunder. It could have killed me instantly, but he missed. So he had to fix my life. I looked up at the sky, laughing and bragging that I was still alive. Yeah, this is a really striking chapter with this kind of with what they're doing here with visual novel language. I heard thunder again. It was acknowledging its loss. Come on, God, save me. I won the bet, so save me from this misery. Ah! 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 Eyes, come on. She's adorable. Does she got potato graphics? Oh, she don't have Manga Gamer or potato graphics, man. Or no, wait. I gotta have the UI up to do that. go cook her a fight. Takano deserves all the pancakes right now. Okay, yeah, there's no potato graphics or Manga Gamer graphics for Widow Bitty Takano. Or Miyoko Tanashi. I stood there. I waited for God to do something while the rain poured down on me, but he didn't answer me again. I couldn't hear the thunder anymore. Again, I felt the warm tears pour down my cheeks. What was I thinking? If there was a God in heaven, he wouldn't have let anything like this happen to me. My miserable life was proof of God's non-existence. The darkness was about to swallow me utterly. Would I have to sleep out here? God must have wanted me to die slowly in this cold rain instead of granting me an instant death by lightning. Yeah, no baby Spud, Miyoko. I wished the sun would go away. I wished the sun would never rise. I wished that, as the woods had grown completely dark, my existence would be hidden by that darkness. I wished that I could just disappear. Had it been an eternity, or was it a matter of seconds? I couldn't even tell time in such darkness. It was then that I saw something. It was a light. I noticed it only because the woods were so dark, but was it really there? Had it been there this whole time? I felt like the light was inviting me towards it. It was a fluorescent light. I didn't normally like fluorescent lights because I always thought they looked cold, but I didn't feel the coldness from that white light. I made myself believe that the light was a guide sent by God. I had to believe, otherwise I wouldn't be saved. The light reflected in a puddle. It wasn't a muddy puddle, it was a puddle on asphalt. I had made it out of the woods and was on a paved road. The light was a street light. Being on a paved road didn't really resolve anything. It was just a country road. It was a road that went through the woods, so there were no houses, no shops, and not even a single car going by. There weren't too many streetlights on the road, so it was still very dark. My feet touched the asphalt. It felt so different from the gravel that I had been walking on earlier. It felt almost merciful. My feet had grown used to walking on gravel, but after feeling the softness of asphalt, I never wanted to go back to the former again. I could only choose between heading left or heading right. I was grateful to God for leading me to this asphalt road, but I wish that he would have given me a little more guidance. Such a little bit of luck couldn't make up for all the unhappiness I'd gone through. And that was when I sensed his guidance. I saw another light in the distance. It was only on the right side. I headed towards it, and when I got there, I understood what it was. I was amazed to find it there, a telephone booth. Who would actually make a call in the middle of nowhere? A telephone booth in the countryside was rather unusual. There were plenty of red public phones all over, but I had always thought telephone booths only existed in big cities. It almost looked as though the telephone booth had been put there as a punishment for doing something bad. When I thought about that, I felt bad for the lonely telephone booth. It reminded me of myself. Even if I went inside the telephone booth, what could I even do in there anyway? I already knew the answer to that question, but no matter what, I just had to get there. The door squeaked as I opened it. There were lots of moths and other bugs flittering in the light. I usually hated bugs, but in that moment I felt like they were my friends, sheltering from the rain like me. There was no heater, but it still was very warm inside the booth. It sheltered me from the cold rain. Soon enough, I crumbled to the floor. The warmth from the fluorescent light embraced me gently, and I felt it was telling me that it was okay to cry. But I had no more tears left, because I cried them all when the lightning struck. Aching scratches covered my body. My calves were in pain too. Everything hurt everywhere, and I didn't want to ever get up again. I wished I could fall asleep, but if I did that, the staff from the orphanage might find me. The windows in the booth were high up, so if I sat down, I wouldn't be visible from the outside. But as it was the only shelter in these dark woods, the staff would be sure to check it. That was why I couldn't stay here for long. Telephone booths from back then weren't completely made of glass, so it was possible to hide inside one. Just so you know. No, this one I don't know is cut. We don't know yet. We're back in the middle of Takano escaping. She challenged God and won. That was a really cool scene. You'll have to go and check that one out. It's a real good scene. I wasn't expecting it to be that good, but it was real good. Also, hope you're doing well. My exhausted spirit understood that I had to move, but I just couldn't make myself. Maybe I was experiencing some kind of vision. I felt a strange calmness that I had never experienced before. I didn't feel that I was myself. It was very strange. I thought that maybe I was killed by that lightning. I had assumed that I was Miyoko Tanashi, but maybe I wasn't her at all. I seriously considered those things. Then, as I started to think about the telephone booth had something to do with it, because God led me there. He couldn't have done so just because it was providing shelter from the rain. There had to be something else. I wondered what it was. Could there be something in the booth that could save me? But what? A telephone booth is used to make a phone call, but I didn't have any money. But then, I noticed something that looked like copper. My heart skipped a beat. The 10-yen coin I saw wasn't there before. Did I just miss it? I didn't think so. It must have just showed up. In other words, this 10-yen coin was guidance from God. He was telling me to make a call with this coin, but who? There was no telephone book. In that case, I could only call a number I knew. Did God want me to do that then? There was only one coin. I could only call one number, and I couldn't talk for that long. I had challenged God earlier, so it was just a matter of course to think that God was challenging me in return. I had only one chance, and he wanted me to test my luck with that chance. I left the phone booth and looked up at the sky. Then I yelled in my heart, "You're on, God!" I wondered who I could call. Who? My house? My parents were dead, and I had no relatives. Even if I called, nobody would answer. Actually, the phone bill wouldn't have been paid for a long time, so the phone line would already be disconnected. My house was my lost life itself. No, the debris of my life. Calling home would simply be an expression of regrets, which ran counter to the positive attitude of one trying to change their life. So surely using the coin to call my house was wrong, which meant I had to cast this 10-yen coin towards my future. Future. My future. What future, anyway? Then I heard a huge thunderclap, which cleared my mind. In that clear state of mind, I saw something from the past. It was the last sight of my father, his final moments in the hospital bed. Though suffering from pain, he tried to tell me something very important.
お父さんが死んだら高野先生を頼りなさい。高野ひふみ先生だよ。言ってみなさい。
高野ひふみ？
そうだ、高野ひふみ先生だよ。高野先生はお父さんの恩師なんだ。きっとお前を助ける。
Many doctors came into the room in a hurry. He wanted to tell me something else, but the doctors stopped him from talking, so it wasn't audible. It shouldn't have been, but it was to me. I heard it, but I didn't want to hear him say it while suffering, so I pretended that I didn't hear. He said it while coughing. I heard it. There were numbers. I swallowed once. That's right. It was a phone number. He knew nobody would take me in because we had no relatives. He told me to get in touch with him, Dr. Hifumi Takano. He tried to tell me his phone number. What had I done? He tried so hard using his last chance to tell me the most important thing. The thunder from earlier had made me remember it. The numbers I couldn't remember even once had come out smoothly. I dialed it in. This really was it. This was the number from my father's teacher, Dr. Takano. But my hand stopped just as I tried to put the coin in. What if I hadn't remembered it correctly? No, there was no need to hesitate. I had to believe in myself. This had to be the correct number. I had to dial it before I forgot it again. I picked up the phone and put the coin in. Beep! I heard the dial tone on the other end. At that point, I decided to kill myself if it didn't work. I could go back into the woods and wait for another lightning bolt. I could lie down and let the rainwater drown me too. I could also fall asleep in the middle of the road and wait for a car to run me over. I made up my mind and put the coin in. I didn't hesitate any longer. I dialed the number at once. But I had to be careful. If you dial quickly, sometimes you can make mistakes. I have nightmares about doing that. About dialing the wrong number. About like missing it by one fucking number or something. And it's like an emergency and I need to call that number right away. I have weird fucking nightmares about that. The beep scared the shit out of you. I'm sorry. I was getting irritated and that almost made the phone number go vague in my head. I dialed the last digit and heard some electronic sounds on the other end. I hoped that I dialed the correct number. I didn't know what to say to Dr. Takano if it did connect. Where was I? What was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to ask him? I didn't know any of these things. Making a call isn't cheap. 1 10-yen coin could only buy me a short time to talk. The line must have connected then. I heard a ringtone. I had only a short time once he answered the phone. I thought for a moment that I should put the phone down. Then I could at least get the coin back. I could call back after sorting my thoughts. But then someone answered.
もしもし高野です。
I felt like I was suffocating. My memory had been correct. I couldn't tell the age of the speaker, but it was a grown man's voice. Anyone who was my father's teacher must have been quite odd. Never mind that. I had to hurry and say something. Hurry, hurry.
高野先生ですか？高野ひふみ先生ですか？
ん？そうですが、どちら様ですか？
He must have been suspicious. I couldn't blame him. A stranger was asking him about his name. Of course he'd get suspicious.
ごめんなさい。私、田無って言います。田無美代子と申します。
田無さん？はい。
私の父に高野先生に電話しろって言われたんです。
父は田無竹光と言います。
田無ああ、田無くん。ああ。
His voice suddenly changed. Dr. Takano had suddenly remembered his old student.
私、娘です。お父さんに電話しろって言われて。
田無くんに何かあったんですか？
Ah, not good. I was gonna run out of
お
time.
父さんとお母さんが事故で死んじゃって、それで高野先生に電話しろって言われたんです。
田無くんがお亡くなりに？そうですか。二人とも？それは本当にお気の毒です。田無くんは私が大学で講師をしていた時、しばらく交流があったことがあります。何事にも勤勉な良い青年でした。結婚式に呼んでもらった時にあったのが最後だったような気がします。
Obviously, he didn't know I was born, but he remembered my father. That was truly a stroke of luck.
田無君は私に何と？
I didn't know what to say. I was only told to call Dr. Takano. How could I tell him that? My time was running out. I felt more and more anxious by the minute. Phone calls were disconnected without notice, but somehow I sensed it. I only had enough time left for one sentence, so I decided to say one sentence filled with all of my hopes. The phone call got disconnected. Maybe he only heard part of what I said. I could only hope he was able to sense my despair. I couldn't hear anything from the receiver anymore, but I actually talked to Dr. Takano. I confirmed that Dr. Takano existed. He existed and he remembered my father. If he grieved over his student's death, then he would come visit my house, and he would find out that I was sent to an orphanage. Then he would come get me. That's when tears flowed down my cheeks again. I thought that my life was hopeless. I never knew that finding even a grain of hope could make me feel so happy and strong. The voice I heard on the phone was so warm and dependable. My father must have thought about me for a long time in that hospital bed and came up with a name that he could trust his daughter with. Dr. Hifumi Takano. So I could trust Dr. Takano. I had to believe that he would find me, but it might take more than just a few days. I'd have to wait patiently. A few days? A month? More? I could only wait patiently. Either way, I couldn't stay in the telephone box. The staff would easily find me there. I went out into the rain again. This time, the rain felt a little warmer than before. I had wished to die by lightning, but after that phone call, I was filled with hope and the will to live. I wanted to live, and that was why I felt pain all over my body. When I still wished to die, I didn't feel anything. I had to wait patiently until Dr. Takano came to pick me up. I had to get to the House of Love and Mercy. That would be the best place to wait for him. I didn't think the orphanage would tell him I escaped to the House of Love and Mercy. But the house wouldn't stop me from calling him. All I'd have to do was call him again and let him know where I was, but I didn't know where I could find the House of Love and Mercy. I couldn't see any signs anywhere, and I didn't even know what direction the orphanage I escaped from was in. But I couldn't just stop. I had to walk. I had to find shelter. I had to find someone and ask for directions to the House of Love and Mercy. I had to keep going because I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, that's a real good parallel there. Just really, really good theming and a callback to just... The chills and throbbing pain tormented me, but I couldn't die until I met Takano-sensei. I wished a car would come by. If it was someone who lived in the area, I could ask, but the police wouldn't do me any good. I was sure the orphanage had already called the police about our escape, and they wouldn't be forgiving. The police were sure to send me back to the orphanage. Either way, I wished that someone would show up. Otherwise, I'd have to keep walking on the asphalt in the darkness forever. How long did I walk? Still no car. Just as I couldn't help but think that maybe the world perished, leaving only me behind, a car showed up. I sensed the car coming up behind me, so I turned around. I saw their headlights approaching me. I thought for a moment, should I stand in the middle of the street and stop the car? It was so dark. I didn't think the car would notice if I just waved at it. But if I were to stand in the middle of the street, I could get run over. While I thought, the car was getting closer and closer. When I made the phone call, I panicked and didn't know what to say, so with this car, I'd have to think very carefully. If I couldn't think of anything, then I should just let the car go. With those thoughts vaguely on my mind, I was incredibly surprised when the car slammed on the brakes with a screech came to a stop. Maybe I wasn't all there after the miraculous experience of lightning striking near me. I had half lost my mind in those dark woods, so I probably wasn't thinking very straight. Because the car had stopped after recognizing me. In other words, the driver knew who I was, and the only people in the area who would recognize me were... Suddenly a chill ran through my whole body. I started to dash away. I heard a voice calling after me. I no longer had the strength to run. My feet were trembling and I couldn't make them cooperate. I realized then that I shouldn't have sat down in the phone booth. That was why I couldn't keep running. I was suddenly grabbed from behind, the collar of my clothes almost choking me. I heard fabric being ripped. I fell in a puddle and a staff member got on top of me. This time his finger wasn't in my mouth. All I could do was struggle. As I did, I remembered all the scary stories Eriko and the others told me. All the torture the child who was caught had to endure. The drowned ducky punishment, the mashed caterpillar punishment, the splayed piggy punishment. The names of those eerie-sounding punishments came to my mind. I screamed and struggled with all my might, but it was too late. I was shoved into the back seat of the car. Why couldn't they just let me go? Simple. They didn't want me talking about them to anybody. The staff were yelling and screaming while chasing me, but once we were in the car, they went silent. It was like the Grim Reaper had come to get me. Whether I liked it or not, I had to come to terms with the fact that my luck had run out. But I had called Takano-sensei, so I knew he would come get me. I didn't know when that would be, but I knew it would happen someday, so I wanted to live. I would be saved if I lived. I couldn't even imagine the kind of punishment that was waiting for me. But even so, I said to myself, I had to live. I'd already found the light at the end of the tunnel. All I had to do was endure until I reached it. The car stopped. We had arrived at the front gate of the orphanage. The two staff members grabbed my shoulders so I wouldn't run. My shoulders were very skinny, so it hurt a lot. I was scared of what I would have to go through. We went to the door and I was finally sheltered from the rain. In a way, it wasn't sheltered at all, though. It was in the middle of the night and long past time to turn all the lights off. The orphanage should have been quiet. But I heard a noise. It was a strange noise. The noise of a shower. The sound of metal objects crashing into each other. Also, the staff's yelling and screaming. A chill went down my spine. What could I possibly write down to fully describe this fear? A staff member knocked on the door to the storage room and the door opened. The moment it did, an angry roar issued from inside. The sight leapt into my eyes. I couldn't completely take in the bizarre scene before me. Two staff members were hitting a mat with bamboo swords while yelling violently. It was a mat used in, the one you use when you do gymnastics. But why was it rolled up like that? The rolled up mat was tied with a string and it was standing up in a corner. The staff members were hitting it. Usually words are said to a person, but when they were yelling at but why were they yelling at a rolled up mat? The way they were hitting and yelling at it, it was as if they'd gone mad. But wait, I could see something sticking out from the top of the rolled up mat. It was, let me see, whose shoes are those? All of a sudden I froze and I couldn't think anymore. One man stood in front of me. The man's pinky finger was wrapped in bandages. My eyes moved upwards from his pinky finger and met with his. The beast's eyes met mine, peering with intent to devour me. I squeezed out a voiceless scream. My voice didn't come out, so it was more like a goldfish opening and closing its mouth. The beast stuck its little finger in front of me and roared. I couldn't tell if it was a word or a meaningless shriek, but I was certain it was something abusive. I was scared. I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. I knew that Dr. Takano would show up to save me. That was why I had to live and submit myself to the fear. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The hand with the bandages grabbed my hair and dragged me along. All I could do was apologize and beg for forgiveness while hoping the beast had even a tiny bit of mercy in him. I was like a broken, apologizing doll, a mad doll that kept muttering apologies until its key wound down. I was their toy, shedding tears, coughing blood, and apologizing in place of clicking gears. I could see into the shower room where he had dragged me along. The door was open and I heard wailing from the inside. What I saw was very strange. There was a locker on its side in the shower. It was an odd sight. A locker was taking a shower inside. Oh! Oh man, this is unsettling. The locker was on its side in the shower. What an odd sight. A locker was taking a shower sideways. I'd never even imagined anything like that before. The locker was taking a cold shower while 2 staff members hit it with bamboo swords. That explained the metallic noise I heard before. The beast didn't want me to see that. He pulled my hair violently and twisted my neck so that it looked in the opposite direction. Then I realized he didn't do that to stop me from watching that shower. He did it to make me look at something else. I saw a window and a courtyard. Usually it was too dark to see anything, but the lights were on and the courtyard was very bright. Then I saw it. Inside of the hen house, I saw... What was that? Oh no. They can't even say what they're seeing, but it's probably real bad! That hair was Eriko's. But why was she... This was far too... Oh man, this is real fucked up. Your imagination makes everything worse! Also, hi nerd, how's it going? Hope you're well. I don't want to die. I know Dr. Takano is coming to save me. I know he is coming. I was taken to the staff bathroom. It stunk of ammonia. I saw it just does that, which doesn't fit in a bathroom. Why was this in the bathroom, I thought? He's not planning to blank me with blank, is he? No way. No. Tanashi, this is your punishment for breaking the rules. Everyone must follow the rules. If you don't, you get punished. Do you understand? I'll never do it again. I'll do everything you tell me to do. I promise, I really do. Please spare me. Please spare me from... Oh, man. No, that hurts. No. This is just... Not even saying what's happening makes it worse. It just makes it worse. Whoa. But that's where we're going to call it tonight. We're having a bit of an earlier night tonight, I know, but yeah, we'll be fine. We're going to go ahead and call it right there. But we will be back again tomorrow evening. Same Poly time, same Poly channel. You know where we be. We'll be here at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to get everything sorted and continue down this road. Hopefully there's a happier ending beyond, oh God, the things that are happening.